the time being 7:50, I'd like to call the Government Operations Committee to order on this Monday evening of October 6th. Can I please have a roll call?
Gam.
Here.
Spellman.
Here.
Petrilla.
Here.
Wirball.
Here.
Bessner.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Sulkaitis.
Here.
Folks.
Here.
Bungard.
Here.
Munns.
Here.
All right, wonderful. First up, I'd like a motion and a second for the items for the omnibus vote.
So moved.
Moved by Spellman,
Second.
seconded by Bessner. Roll call, please.
Gam.
Yes.
Spellman.
Yes.
Petrilla.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes.
Bessner.
Yes.
Sulkaitis.
Yes.
Folks.
Yes.
Bungard.
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
Great, that motion carries. Next up, I have 4 items that will be presented by Police Chief Lyken. Can you please come to the podium? So first up is item 5A, a recommendation to approve a proposal for massage license application for Flower of Life Yoga and Wellness Center, LLC.
Good evening. These were appeared earlier this evening before the Liquor Commissioner with a recommendation for approval. The first one is Flower of Life Yoga Massage License. This is an existing business in town that is a yoga studio. She is looking to kind of expand that business and have some dedicated massage therapists on staff. It'll be a appointment-only service. All of the masseuses are licensed through the state of Illinois. And again, she is a local resident here of St. Charles.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion by Wirball, seconded by Munns. Roll call, please.
Gam.
Yes.
Spellman.
Yes.
Petrilla.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes.
Bessner.
Yes.
Sulkaitis.
Yes.
Folks.
Yes.
Bungard.
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next up, item 5B is a recommendation to approve a proposal for an F2 liquor license application for Round Table Entertainment. Go ahead, Chief.
So for Roundtable Entertainment, let me make sure I have the right one. Is it? I don't know if I have Roundtable.
Wired Up Party Zone?
Wired Up Party Zone I have. Okay, I apologize for that.
Sorry, doing business as Wired Up Party Zone?
Yes. So Wired Up Party Zone, again, is an existing business here in town, primarily catering currently to children's parties. They do about a 2-hour block window. Again, he is looking to expand his business. It is for packaged goods to be brought in and consumed on premises. Nothing will be stored on premises or served. Again, he's looking to kind of expand and maybe do some corporate events, some adult events, birthday parties. It's a gaming type establishment where they have a lot of Xboxes and PlayStations and all kinds of video interaction. And again, nothing will be stored there. And again, it was recommended for approval earlier this evening.
Any questions regarding this? Go ahead, Mr. Sulkaitis.
Question. Thank you. This applies to not just this establishment, but anybody else who has a F2 liquor license. Who monitors inside about being over 21?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's something that bothers me about this. How do we
police it? How do we
Right,
monitor
and-
for compliance? I mean, it would be like just any other place. We could do alcohol checks to see if consumption is occurring there on premises. It would still fall under the liquor license law, just like we would at a bar, just like we would at a restaurant.
Do we do them for anyone with an F2?
I don't know the answer about F2s. I don't know if
Okay.
you would know that answer. Yeah, we have done.
Okay, I just want to make sure we do, because we're depending on who's ever there to make sure, and that's, I'm just a little iffy on that.
Yeah, I know they've
Because
partnered in
of that.
alcohol enforcement and consumption details before, and sending in minors, doing that kind of stuff. So I mean, that's certainly something that we could put on our radar.
I wish you would do that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Move
Looking
for
a motion
approval.
and a second. Motion by Munn, seconded by Petrillo. Roll call, please.
Gam.
Yes.
Spellman.
Yes.
Petrilla.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes.
Bessner.
Yes.
Sulkaitis.
Yes.
Folks.
Yes.
Bungard.
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next up, we have item 5C, recommendation to approve a proposal for an F2 liquor license application for the Birdie Collective LLC.
So the Birdie Collective LLC, primarily owned by Mr. Derek Cooper. I think he was in the audience tonight here with us. Again, that background came back, no issues. This is an existing business again, another F2 license. This is a golf simulator type concept, which would allow packaged goods to be consumed by persons over the age of 21 on premise. Again, nothing stored, nothing served by the establishment. So again, it's an existing business where they would expand a little and allow people to consume on premise. And again, that was voted on earlier tonight for approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
We got a motion by Bongard, seconded by Wirball. Roll call, please.
Ginn,
Yes.
Spellman,
Yes.
Petrilla,
Yes.
Wirball,
Yes.
Gessner,
Yes.
Kulturitis,
Yes.
Folks,
Yes.
Bungard,
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
Great, that motion carries. Next up, we have item 5D, recommendation to approve of street closures and use of amplification equipment for the 2025 Turkey Trot.
I'll let Tim take these, he's been living it, so let him have it.
All right, good evening. Requesting the roadway closure for Redgate Road Route 31 between Redgate Road and Fieldcrest Drive for the third annual running of the Thanksgiving Day Turkey Trot. With this being the third annual running, it's kind of grown year over year, and we found that the best practice to have the smoothest running of the race is to close a portion of 31 to accommodate the route. We'll have an established detour in place and officers manned at specific intersections to facilitate that detour and to keep traffic moving. In addition, the race village is going to be centralized in St. Charles North campus. They're looking to have an amplification system there, so we're looking for approval for that permit as well.
Okay, any questions regarding this? Go ahead, Mr. Wirball.
Just curious, you're expecting 1,500 to 2,000 runners. Is there enough parking over there for all of that? Or?
So we haven't had an issue with it yet to date.
Oh, okay.
It's grown to, I want to say year one, there was just under 1,000 people. Last year there was right around 1,200. So I'm not sure what their cap is at right now, where they are as far as registrants, but so far there haven't been any issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They parked in the lot at North, is that?
Yeah.
And across the street.
That's a lot. I mean, that's quite a bit of parking.
Yeah, it's been working so far. So it's good.
Any other questions regarding this? Go ahead.
I'd just like to add that I've done that the last couple of years. It's run really well. I love the fact that you're closing the street. I think it's a great community event, so
I'm looking for a motion and a second.
I would like to make a motion.
Moved by Munn, seconded by Gem. Roll call, please.
Ginn,
Yes.
Spellman,
Yes.
Petrilla,
Yes.
Wirball,
Yes.
Gessner,
Yes.
Kulturitis,
Yes.
Folks,
Yes.
Bungard,
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
Wonderful, that motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up, now we have finance. Item 6B, I believe there's going to be some slides that are going to be presented. So we'll give Bill a second to get up here.
Thank you. Thank you. The first item is a recommendation to accept a resolution of a gift of Santa's Cottage from the St. Charles Business Alliance. So this item is a lot more fun than the next two, so I'm not going to steal Jetta's thunder, but I'll let her come up and give a short overview of this item.
Hi.
Hello.
Just excited to share with you our rendering of our new Santa Cottage, which will be installed this November on First Street on the First Street Plaza. Our original Santa Cottage served the community for more than 30 years, creating countless memories for families across St. Charles. So this is a rendering of it. This is what it will look like. As we look to the future, we wanted to build something that truly reflects the warmth and charm of the new plaza and a place where holiday magic can continue for generations to come. The new cottage was made possible through a generous sponsorship and built with care by a local craftsman, Randy Unick. We also worked hand in hand with our public works team to ensure it can be stored safely and transported smoothly from their facility to the plaza each year. We will have an official ribbon cutting that will take place during our Lighting of the Lights celebration on Friday, November 28th at 5 p.m., and we hope that you guys will all join us. So we will officially welcome Santa back to downtown St. Charles.
Wonderful. Any questions?
Move for approval.
Motion and a second. Motion by Wirball, seconded by Petrillo. Roll call, please.
Ginn,
Yes.
Spellman,
Yes.
Petrilla,
Yes.
Wirball,
Yes.
Gessner,
Yes.
Kulturitis,
Yes.
Folks,
Yes.
Bungard,
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
Great, that motion carries. Item 6C, go ahead, Director Hannah.
Thank you. This next item is a recommendation to accept the financial and other reports for the fiscal year ending April 30th, 2025, including the annual comprehensive financial report, board communications, sales tax, revenue bond compliance, TIF, and other reports. Two parts to this item. The first part, I'm going to have our auditor, Jim Savio from Sikich, give a presentation on the audit process, and then we'll have a short overview of some of the year-end financials after that.
Just state your name for the record, please.
Yeah, Jim Savio.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill, and thanks everyone for your time here tonight. I really do appreciate it. As Bill said, he's going to go over some of the financial numbers, so I'm going to focus mainly just on the reports that we issue as the auditor, the independent auditor's report, then the report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters, and then our communication to those charged with governance that we issue as well. So, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have after that. So I'm going to start in the annual comprehensive financial report, starting on page 1. So page 1 is the independent auditor's report. You'll notice the opinions are the very first section of the report. And you'll see in that second paragraph, we issue what we call an unmodified opinion. So that's the highest level of assurance that we can provide to the city. And it basically says that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So right after that, the third paragraph, we did have a change in accounting principle. We adopted 3 new standards. The one that was really significant was GASB Statement 101, though, so we have an emphasis of a matter paragraph that we just communicate that to you. Changed the way you accounted for compensated absences, so your vacation and sick time. Did increase those numbers, the liability a little bit on the government-wide financial statements and then your proprietary fund financial statements. So that further information on that is in footnote 15. So we give an opinion on what we call the basic financial statements. And what we do with the rest of the information in the report, we explain on pages 3 and 4. So if you turn to page 3, in the other matters section, there's required supplementary information, which is management discussion and analysis that I'll talk about in a second. And then also some other required supplementary information, budget versus actual for your general fund, and then some pension and retiree health information. What we do is perform some limited procedures. So we do read it, we make inquiries of management, but not enough to give an opinion on that. So that's explained there. The supplementary information is the combining an individual fund financial statements and schedules. So that's all the schedules in the back of the report, the combining and also budget versus actual information. So we give what we call an in relation to opinion on that. So in relation to the basic financial statements, it's not materially misstated. So an unmodified opinion on that information as well. And then on page 4 is under other information. That's considered the introductory and statistical sections. So we don't give an opinion on this information. We do read it, make sure it's not materially inconsistent with the basic financial statements or not otherwise materially misstated. It wasn't, but if it were, we'd ask you to correct that information. If not, we'd communicate that to the city council. So that's our independent auditor's report. The very next report that we issue is on page 5. That's the independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters, based on an audit of financial statements performed in accordance with government auditing standards. Commonly referred to as a yellow book opinion or report. So this is required because you expended more than $500,000 in state-issued grants. So the report on internal control is that first section on page 5. And then if you go to page 6, that very first paragraph, we're communicating there, the next to last sentence basically says that we didn't find any material weaknesses in financial reporting. And then the report on compliance and other matters is the very next paragraph. And then the last sentence in that paragraph basically says that we had no instances of non-compliance that were noted. So clean, unmodified report there. And then a few pages further, I always point this out every year, it's the management discussion and analysis on MD&A page 1. So the finance department prepares this. Really good overview of the city's finances and financial position, changes in financial position. point out any significant changes or trends that might be occurring, and then also has some two-year comparative data. So I always encourage you, if you want to read one thing in the, basically 200-plus page report, read the MD&A, because it's a good overview of the city's finances. So that's all I was going to discuss on the annual comprehensive financial report. The second report I want to talk about real briefly is the auditor's communication to the mayor and members of city council and management. That's the smaller report. And I'm going to start on the table of contents again. So on pages 2 through 4 of this report, there's some required communication that we have to have with the council each year. That's required by auditing standards. We did communicate this year that we implemented GASB Statement 101 that I talked about, compensated absences. We implemented GASB 100 related to accounting changes and error corrections, as well as GASB Statement 104, which changed the disclosures for certain capital assets. So those were minor ones compared to GASB Statement 101, but we still communicate that to the council. On page 5, we just had one audit adjustment on page 5 that related to an IDOT grant. And then we didn't have any what we call past adjusting journal entries. These would be entries that are deemed to be immaterial, but above a certain materiality floor, we have to communicate that to the council. So it didn't have any past adjustments at all. And then the communication of deficiencies and internal control and other comments starts on page 6. And then on page 7, we basically state we didn't have any new deficiencies this year. So no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no deficiencies, and just one audit adjustment that we noted. So a great job by Bill and his entire staff for having everything fully adjusted in accordance with GAAP. So it was, really easy audit to come in and just audit the numbers and not have any adjusting entries. So we did issue a few other reports that I'll point out. We have a one-page management letter that basically states in writing that there were no material weaknesses. We issued 5 TIP reports this year. I think that was one more than the previous year. On your compliance with Public Act 85-1142. So those were on modified opinions too. And then the very last 2016 revenue bond report on compliance we issued, those were paid off in the current year. So this will be the last report we have on that. That was again an unmodified opinion. And then because you expended more than $300,000 in state-issued grants, we have to give an in relation to opinion on the consolidated year-end financial report that's required by the Illinois Grant Accountability and Transparency Act. Again, unmodified opinion as well for that report. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions? Go ahead, David.
Just for clarification, so the 575,000, that's the grant related to Prairie Street,
correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah, it was around 25 IDOT grant, I believe.
Any other questions for Jim? No? Thank you.
Great.
You're very
Yep.
much,
Thank
Jim.
you.
Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Phil, did you have anything else to add? Yes. Yep.
Excellent. Yep. So, thank you, Jim. So I wanted to provide a brief overview of some of the highlights of the financials for this fiscal year. Before I do that, I just want to take the opportunity to introduce Roy Beckham here in the audience. He's the new Deputy Director of Finance. So he's been here about 6 months, and he's been a big help jumping in right away and helping out during this audit process. I just want to also recognize the other members of the finance accounting team. I mean, they work their butts off for many months trying to pull all this together and get their normal operations done every year. So kudos to them for all the work that they do. It's really a big lift every single year. So I wanted to give a brief overview of the, sorry, a little bit head cold, of the for the as of April 30th. So really briefly, this is essentially the balance sheet of the city at the end of the fiscal year. And this is similar to, private sector accounting, includes all long-term debt, capital assets, And this essentially says that the city had roughly $628 million in assets at the end of the fiscal year, $288 million in current and long-term liabilities, with a total net position of about $340 million at the end of the year. That total net position increased about $27 million during the year to that $340 million. And the report breaks this up between governmental activities and business type activities. And the city's overall net position did increase for both governmental and business type activities during the year. Of that $340 million in net position, $266 million was the city's net investment in capital assets, net of related debt, which also increased by $22 million during the year. And as Jim mentioned earlier, the city did implement GASB Statement Number 101 that did result in a small restatement of beginning net position of about $1.7 million across both governmental and business type activities. So hopefully that's the most techie type slide on this presentation, but I wanted to at least point that out for everyone. So this next slide is an overview of the general fund. And I provided a condensed presentation of the general fund during the last fiscal year. There was $64 million in revenues and $55 million in expenditures. Revenues increased $5 million or $3.2 million over the prior year. General fund expenditures increased 1% over the prior year, or just about $0.6 million. That's a little bit lower than expected, but that was due to the additional pension contributions that the city made in 2024. So if you back that out, the actual percentage increase in expenditures was about 3.6%. Sales tax revenue still showed an increase, about 5.9% during the year to $30 million. Not as much as in prior years, but still a good increase. Walking down that statement there were transfers in of $2.1 million to the general fund. That was essentially the city closing out that sales tax revenue bond that Jim mentioned earlier. So we no longer needed to have that fund in existence. So we might have mentioned that during the budget process. We closed that fund and rolled those monies into the general fund during last fiscal year. Transfers out of the general fund were $11.2 million. $5.4 million was for the payment of principal and interest on general obligation debt related to general capital assets. So that's the principal and interest payments on those debt obligations that were issued for general capital assets. We had a $2.5 million transfer to the capital projects fund to help support capital projects, and a $2.25 million transfer to the water fund to help subsidize those water operations and capital projects. At the end of the year, the net change to the general fund was about $550,000. Increase in fund balance, total fund balance to $33 million, but unrestricted fund balance was $31.2 million at the end of the year. And the fund balance metric of reserves as a percentage of expenditures and transfers out was 47.1%, which is very similar to about 2 years ago. So just pause there if there's any questions on that. So this next slide is just an illustration that we show, I think, about once every year about the city's long-term debt obligations. So the first chart on the right shows the general obligation outstanding GO debt as it was over the last 5 years. You can see it peaked at $108 million in fiscal 22, and at the end of this last fiscal year, it was $88 million. Outstanding IAP loans actually decreased a little bit from $68 million to $64 million, so the total outstanding debt issuances at the end of the year about $153 million, so that wound up being a total decrease of about $9 million. When you look at the metrics off on the right there, the total debt per capita went down from $4,900 to about $4,600, so definitely improvement over the prior year. And the total debt as a percentage of EAV went from 9.3% to 7.6% as the city's taxable EAV increased a fairly sizable amount last year, and the overall debt obligations went down. This is just an illustration of the city's outstanding general obligation debt. So the city has 12 general obligation issuances still out there for various purposes. This shows the total amount outstanding over time, all the way to 2042, as that is repaid annually. So those repayment schedules of principal are set based on those bond ordinances. So we know as we walk through these years, as long as the city doesn't issue any new debt obligations, what that outstanding amount will be by the end of the fiscal year. So I think I had this graphic a couple of years ago, and I just thought I'd bring it up again to show kind of the illustration of what the pay down of that general obligation debt looks like. We talked a little bit over the last couple of months about the pension obligations and actuarial funding. So just wanted to quickly mention the progress on the funding of police and fire pension funds. Obviously, firefighters red on the right. Percent funded on an actuarial basis rose from 70% to just almost 71%, and it's been slow but steady increases. And that's on an actuarial basis, so that smooths investment returns over a 5-year period. It isn't based on the net position of the fund at the end of the fiscal year. On the police side, we had a fairly sizable improvement from 55% to 58%, so progress being made on the police front. The recommended actuarially determined city contributions, those are the amounts that we've been talking about in context of the tax levy, and those amounts and reports are listed in our Act for 2 along with all the other pension supplementary schedules. Wanted to quickly touch on the other governmental funds. So obviously we talked about the general fund, but this quick breakdown shows all the other governmental funds in total. Broken down to essentially the city's capital projects fund and then all the other funds combined. So our capital projects fund is now technically listed as a major fund, so it's listed separately in a certain portion of our ACFR and not lumped together with the other funds. So they're always listed separately, but now that the major fund is listed earlier in the document. So our capital projects fund had $4.9 million in sales tax revenue last year. We received another $1.1 million in grant revenue related to the police tactical facility. We had some other revenues during the year, so that wound up to $7.1 million. We had expenditures of $11 million in our capital projects fund, so there's a lot of activity and a lot of projects accomplished. Taking into account the transfer from the general fund to the capital projects fund of $2.5 million, the net change in our capital projects fund at the end of the year was $1.4 million. That amount is a little bit less than we projected during the budget process, just because some projects didn't get completed by the end of the fiscal year. So some of those projects and expenditures were just going to be incurring in this current fiscal year rather than last year. So the column with the non-major governmental funds, that's essentially all of our TIF funds, our MFT fund, and our various debt service funds. So all those other governmental funds sort of lumped together. And a lot of the transfer activity you see there is related to TIF funds transferring money to pay debt service, or the old sales tax revenue bond fund transferring money back out to the general fund. But overall, there's a little bit of use of fund balance between all the rest of the governmental funds during the fiscal year. And lastly, just wanted to provide kind of a condensed presentation about our proprietary funds for electric, water, sewer, and refuse. Again, this presentation is long-term focused accrual-based, so it's not going to match exactly with how we account for things on a budgetary basis. That's a modified accrual basis, and this is a full accrual basis. So just wanted to quickly just mention a couple of highlights on these funds. For our electric fund, we had $60 million in charges for services, $52 million in operating expenses with depreciation of $5 million, operating income of $8.9 million for the electric fund. After other adjustments and changes, there was a change in that position of almost $12 million for the electric fund, and an increase in total net position to $132 million at the end of the year. Reminder, that includes capital asset activity. The unrestricted net position of the electric fund was $59 million during the year, and unrestricted net position is the sort of the fund balance equivalent for business type activities. The water fund had operating charges of $9.4 million and operating expenses of $9.3 million, so it had operating income essentially breaking even $185,000. Total net transfers to the water fund, again, that subsidy mainly from the general fund was $2.4 million. So there's a change in net position of $3.4 million and an unrestricted net position of $5.5 million. Sewer charges of $13.3 million during the year and expenses of $11 million, and the sewer fund wound up with a change in net position of $5.2 million. As we mentioned before, we have a utility rate study ongoing, and I didn't want to leave out the refuse fund that accounts for our leaf pickup and our brush pickup programs. So that's a lot of information. I just wanted to quickly hit a few things, and happy to take any questions. Yes.
Any questions? Go ahead, David.
On that last, could you go back to that one, so under operating revenues, obviously charges for services, that makes sense. What's other?
So that could be other types of charges for services. Some of those are considered some of them are considered non-operating, and some are considered operating. So depending on where they fall, like investment income would be considered a non-operating revenue. But there's other charges would be developer reimbursement, specifically on the electric side.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Jamie.
I'm not certain that I fully understand what this unrestricted net position is. So, for example, in the refuse fund where you have 353, is that what is that used for? Is that what we have remaining? Is that a balance in the account? Is that what we use to operate from?
Yeah, so the unrestricted net position for the refuse fund is essentially the fund balance equivalent in that fund. So that's just the cash reserves essentially in that fund. That there's a user charges support that program, but there's a small subsidy from the general fund every year of $105,000, as you see on that column right there.
So, for example, if we were to have spring cleanup money come from that, that's
Correct.
where that's what that would come from.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Can you go back to the bar graph with the assets, liabilities, and?
Sure. Yes.
So, can you be more specific about our assets that went from, $323 million to almost double? What specifically is pushing that number up?
So the assets are $628 million at the end of the year. They didn't double. You're looking at the governmental and the business type activities added together for that one column. So the assets include cash and investments. They include also capital assets primarily. So those are the two main things combined that equal those.
So I get the
total
cash,
assets.
but can you be more specific about the capital? What is increasing in value at such a rate?
Sure. So when the city, undertakes a capital project and adds a new capital asset and appreciates that over time, the initial value of that capital asset is added to the city's balance sheet at the end of the fiscal year. And so, that's a good thing. That says the city is reinvesting in its capital infrastructure.
So how do you repurpose that into your actual day-to-day financial position, though? Because that's you're saying, we've made this investment, which is great, but I can't sell a city. So if I need to fund a water fund, or if I need to, talk about my general fund, I can't say, well, hey, we redid X, and that made our city more valuable, but it's not going to help you at all with your day-to-day operations or your pension funds.
We're just reporting essentially, the value of the capital assets on the city's books at the end of the fiscal year, which is different from how we talk about things from a budgetary basis as well.
Right, because if you look at this, it's like, why are we collecting a nickel?
Yeah, and so this is essentially full accrual basis accounting, whereas that's much different from modified accrual on a budgetary basis.
Right, and you can't sell a city and you can't.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right.
But we're required to report it, we're required to account for it, so that's the reason.
Okay, great. Bill, I want to thank you for putting this all together, and thank you for acknowledging your team. Obviously, we get to kind of see it all in a nice little bow, but obviously there's a lot of diligent work that goes into this, so I appreciate that. So with that said, I'm looking for a motion a second to accept the finance and other reports for the fiscal year ending April 30th, 2025.
So moved.
Moved by Gem.
Second.
Seconded by Wirball. Roll call, please.
Gem,
Yes.
Spellman,
Yes.
St.Charles,
Yes.
Wirball,
Yes.
Messner,
Yes.
Kulkaitis,
Yes.
Folks,
Yes.
Lundgaard.
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
All right, great. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up, we have item 6D. It's a continued discussion of the 2025 property tax levy. We're not going to be taking an action on it tonight, it's just for discussion. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you. So tonight is a follow-up of the discussion from September 2nd regarding the upcoming 2025 tax levy. And just wanted to start the discussion with just kind of a brief recap of some of the discussion points from September 2nd. Last year's levy, as we discussed, was $14.8 million. A little over half was dedicated for police and fire pension funding, and the rest for other purposes. Based on the actuarial evaluations, as we talked about, we're looking at a 1.78% increase in those allocations for police and fire, just based on the actuarial evaluations. As we talked about 4 weeks ago, the tax levy is really that foundational revenue source, helping us to keep pace with personnel and other operating costs, and really on a multi-year horizon. And we illustrated this chart 4 weeks ago that kind of shows the increase in those personnel costs and other stuff over time, along with showing how the tax levy extension with those incremental increases helps keep pace with some of those costs. The only item I wanted to mention, kind of a recap from last time, was that some of the fiscal benefits that are generated by new development, whether it's residential or commercial within the city, those fiscal benefits related to new property tax dollars only come about if the levy is increased. And those new residential, commercial, and industrial developments will require service demands over time. This is just a chart that we showed last time about the property tax levy cycle. We are essentially the exact same place we were 4 weeks ago with continued ongoing discussions. Next October 20th, Government Operations Committee meeting, we will be looking for the recommendation on the official estimate of the levy, with the subsequent votes approving the official estimate on November 3rd and ultimate approval of the tax levy ordinance at December 1st. Just wanted to quickly outline a few budgetary outlook considerations as we were walking through this process. Personnel cost increases have increased on average 4.75% over the last 4 years. We discussed collective bargaining agreements that are set in place, health insurance increases as another item that we've begun to see significant cost increases related to. Need for future increases in staffing. I know that's been a topic of conversation, and that's something that as the organization grows, the community grows, the service demands grow, that is something that needs to be considered as part of this process. On contractual services, that's the largest cost category after personnel costs. And we've seen an average increase of those about 6.2% per year over the last 4 years. Just mainly due to inflation, service demands, competition from contractors. A lot of our IT subscription costs have increased as older systems are replaced with newer ones that are now have to be paid for on a subscription basis. So overall, the trend has been about a 5.3% increase in expenditures, and we expect overall that trend to continue over the next couple of years. And just the last point I wanted to make about the economic environment we're in related to forecasting sales tax revenue. It's a challenging environment normally, and it's with the uncertainty right now out there, it's just going to be even more challenging trying to forecast what those consumption-based and sales tax revenues are going to be. So this slide is really a summary of the various capital project needs and considerations. I know Heather wanted to make a couple of comments about this. What we try to do is kind of put a one-page summary about some of the needs out there.
Thanks, Bill. And as we're looking at this slide, I know that a lot of the questions that I have received over the last handful of years as we try to tailor our budget process to what council's needs are twofold. One is, what are our projects that we can cut? And then two is, why do we need to have a tax levy increase if we have a surplus of $550,000 at the end of our year? This list is the reason why. If you do some quick math on this list that's up here, this is about $450 million worth of projects, and this is not a comprehensive list of everything that needs to be done in the city. And it also doesn't account for any of our unfunded mandates. So as we are at a staff level looking at our budget, at our tax levy, at some of our projections and some of our recommendations, we are not looking at anything as a one-year cycle. And I know you've probably heard both Bill and I get up here lately and talk about we're looking at 5-year, 10-year cycles when we're talking about forecasting for some of our budget items. This is why. Same reason that when we have some of these discussions about, hey, do we have room in the money, in the budget this year to fund this one particular project? Sure, we can always cut out one, swap out another, but this list continues to grow. And as we as the staff continue to try to draw down our debt, we've successfully gotten it down to $88 million. That's a big deal. We still have to tackle these other projects, and the lead service lines is a huge one on that. We're talking about $100 million. We're talking about $6 to $8 million annually, maybe up to $10 million a year. So when we make the recommendation on our tax levy and to increase some of these revenue sources, it is so we can start making some headway on these longer-term projects that we have that really aren't optional projects. These are not the fun things. These are not the exciting things that we really want to do to reinvest in the city. But until we start to tackle some of these list items, we can't do some of these other things that really make St. Charles what it is. So again, I just wanted to kind of pause here so everybody understands the gravity of the projects we have to do. And this is not because of either poor decision-making or poor financial forecasting. This is just a reality of municipal government and some of the requirements that we are obligated to do to keep a city functional. So I just want to pass that back to Bill. I just wanted to kind of break up some of the hard numbers that we were talking about. I am happy to answer any questions on that list, but like I said, I'm trying to help council to understand that in any given year, as we're looking at these numbers, it's not just about making our revenues and our expenditures match, because we're trying to still make headway on some of these projects that are ongoing for us.
Thank you, Heather. Would the tax levy increase go directly to these projects?
So this is a little bit of a mix of both our general fund and some of our enterprise funds. So, you know, we strategically and creatively talk about what can we move to minimize the impact on any one specific thing. So this is like lead service lines should be really relegated to our utility funds and paid for exclusively out of that. But we're talking about some creative solutions to either offset that initial year of expenditures, knowing we can't get any money for that from a grant or from a loan, but knowing that we have to long-term have that implicated in our budget somewhere. So there's a little bit of a mix, and I can go through each of those and tell you where they would come out of, but anything utility-related should be a utility fund. Anything that's not would be our general fund.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Heather, thank you, and thank you, Bill. So if you took everything off this list except for the lead line service replacements, which you're estimating to be towards $100 million, does this levy change? Even make a dent in it over time?
So we're talking about, and Bill's not finished with his presentation, so I want to make sure he gets to that. But as we're talking about our increases, and we're talking somewhere between, you know, a 0 and a 5% increase, we're talking somewhere in the ballpark of usually $300,000, $400,000, $500,000.
Right,
so
year.
the importance of that is keeping that structural increase that's compounded every year in place, so we can begin to handle all of our operational needs and then still account for these things in our capital funds. We do have those transfers over every year as we allot money towards that. But as we talk about, again, getting our debt down, it's no different than a savings account, that if we are maxed out on our credit cards, we don't have our money going towards the most effective use, we're paying a lot of interest on that. As we get our debt load down, we can start prioritizing some of these projects with our cash reserves.
Okay, thank you.
Ryan, go ahead.
Do you have the year-over-year property tax percentage do you have that handy?
I was going to say, and maybe it's better if Bill finishes his presentation before we get there. I just wanted to break this up a little bit and kind of talk about some context as we finished our audit presentation with our surplus from last year in combination with our tax levy discussion for this year. So
I only have one more slide. It's really just to wrap up on that. So lastly, just other considerations, new construction, EAV, we talked about that 4 weeks ago. Our estimate right now for new construction is about 1.8% of last year's EAV. And last year's total new construction recovery EAV was about 1% higher than our original estimates. So as we talked about last time, a levy increase is partially absorbed by new construction and the new EAV that's added to the city's tax roll and does support that growth-related service demand increases. So just the last factor was just our CPI for this 2024 was 2.9%, and it's averaged about 4.95% over the last 4 years. Recommendation for the levy estimate October 20th is 3.99%. That would be a $592,000 increase over last year. Roughly $265,000 go towards pension increases, and the rest towards funding operations and other projects. So that's the end of the presentation, and can continue with questions and discussion.
Go ahead, Vicki.
And by the way, Bill, thank you for that, with going through that when you have a bad cold. How would our tax levy compare to other communities of a similar size or situation?
It really depends on each community and what their current operating capital situation is, what their structural fiscal situation is. Some communities levy to the max every year, especially the non-home rule. They'll take whatever they can get in terms of inflation. So that was 2 of the last 4 years was a maximum 5%, and a lot of communities did that. So it's really going to vary a lot from community to community.
And just as a quick add-on to that, it is really hard to have an apples-to-apples comparison because each community is different. The age and lead service lines is probably the most real example we have right now. I think, Pete, you said we are one of the highest communities in the state with lead service lines, so we are going to be under a burden that a lot of communities aren't. So as we try to port some of our general fund money over to offset that, that's impacting our operational needs and our operational budget as well. So that's why it's really hard to be able to say, hey, Geneva and Batavia are at this percentage, so therefore we should be somewhere in the ballpark of that.
I understand. I just, a lot of residents say, oh, our taxes are so high, and I never really know how to answer that. Are they high for what we provide, or our communities of our service level? I never know how to answer that.
And I think maybe a better way to look at that would be the tax rate and the actual dollar impact. We will present an impact for an average $350,000 house, and then we can compare that to other communities. So instead of looking at the percentage increase each year, looking at the overall rate. And we can provide that at the next meeting.
Go ahead, Ryan. Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan.
So I thought I had so 4 years ago we were at 4.1, then 3 years ago it was mid-threes, and last year we were at 1.3, which basically tied. So help me understand how we're going. In 4 years we're going down. Now we're coming back in my 5th year of being here, and now we're saying we got to be back to 4%. And to say, I get it, here's your laundry list of things, but a lot of those things aren't new.
Yeah, and I think that was really a result of the council request for us to lower it and reduce it. I think that coming off of the decade that we had that was a flat dollar amount tax levy, trying to make some headway on that. I know in 2021, that was before Bill was here, I'd worked with Colleen on that to make that recommendation, and ideally we probably should have stuck a little bit higher. But hearing some of the feedback from council and knowing what we could get past, that's really why the reduction came in that.
So this is just a comment. I would really like to not make this a, political hot potato every year of, where are we at in the cycle, and I get it, we can't pass, a 4-year, tax levy. Correct. But I would like to, whatever this group can come to an agreement on, and say, hey, this is where we can't do everything. You have unfunded mandates, you have an aging city, it has a lot, people have to be comfortable, but 4 years ago we're here, 3 years ago, 2, 1, and now we're back to 4. So I would just like, between now and I think the end of November, to be able to try and set us on a path that says, this is where the room is at consensus-wise, and hopefully we can kind of set that mile marker so when we come back a year later and it's the same group, that we're not coming back and like, well, now we're at 3.1 because of X. Like, it just seems like it's a tough way to manage an aging city with a lot of financial question marks, and sure. I would selfishly like to avoid that. So
to that point, ideally, we would have a 4.99 or max it out every year at what the non-home rule rate is, and that is what a lot of communities do. That's what a lot of the school districts do. They set their levy right under that limit and go every year so they can capture the inflationary adjustments. The only counterpoint I would make to that is we are looking at the budget with a very fine eye every year and determining what we actually do need to make sure that our budget is balanced and where we can pull from different funds to make sure that everything is happening in a productive way. But ideally, until we get caught up on both this list and some of the revenue that we did not capture over the last decade, it would be at that 5% mark.
You're never going to be able to get caught up, right? Because you have a cap of what you can max out, and you're always going to have this list that's growing more and more, and your rate of inflation and rate of this, like, at some point you have to say, the reality is I'm okay with the size of the pie being at X and maybe slightly growing, and the challenge for staff is trying to find a way to make it work. But the reality is we're never going to be able to pass, you know, a 47% increase, not that I'm advocating that. You know,
Sure.
but like, 4 years ago you're here, then 4 years later here, and now we're back starting over, and it's like, well, look at all the things we have to do. It's always going to, like, my house is always falling apart.
Sure.
There's always going to be something you need to do. So trying to set this down a path where it doesn't become this, you know, every year, like, 4 years in a row I've been up here, you've had 6 yes votes, I should say 7, 3 no's. You know, and trying to get to a spot where collectively as a group we say, hey, we can agree upon this path forward. It may not be the ideal, it may not be the worst, but this is the path forward so that we can concentrate on, okay, what are you going to prioritize on this list of what we can do within the pie?
Sure, and I certainly appreciate that approach. You know, certain years we have different CPI, for example, 2.9 we're looking at now, but a couple years ago we were up at 5, 6, 7%. So not to say that it would tie our hands exactly by doing that, because we can always adjust accordingly, but it's certainly an approach that we can
Well,
take.
I mean, if you're at 3.9 now and your sales tax revenue, not that I'm advocating this, but if your sales tax revenue drops by 40% for whatever reason, now you're going to have to come back and make up. Now we need to go back and forth. It just turns into a constant, like, at some point, you are who you are, and you're going to have to make it work within the means. There's no question there.
So there was no action needed on this?
I just...
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thanks for your presentation. So I just have more comments than anything. So I just noticed that, like, Batavia has a budget workshop they're doing right now. Are we going to do a budget workshop, or are we beyond that? Is not enough time? Because I know Elgin's going to start theirs in, I think, early November, because for me, I've been saying this for the last 2 or 3 years, for me, I think the responsible thing to do is to go over the budget thoroughly, have a budget workshop, so I have a full understanding. When I go to my constituents, I can explain all these things, say, you know what, I don't need to look at how many rolls of toilet paper you bought, but I need to look at and understand, why are we here, what do we need, and then Ryan makes an excellent point. We're not gonna tax our way out of it with a property tax bill with these types of numbers. So are we looking at other ways to diversify our revenue streams? That a gentleman made a recommendation a few weeks ago about a tire disposal fee, you know, that would maybe impact 60% of people that don't even live here, you know, with that kind of creative type of alternative revenue stream. So I'm just trying to look at ways to minimize the property tax levy increase on residents, especially those on fixed incomes. The fourth ward's a little different than other wards, but, you know, we talk about affordable housing. Property taxes are not a choice. You pay it or lose your home. Utility rates are not a choice. You pay it or lose your home. Now, utility rates, I understand, we're going to have to probably increase those to pay for an $80 million project. I understand that, and I'm looking forward to the rate study, but that's really all I ask for. And I understand if it's too late to do a budget workshop, but I see Batavia doing it. I see Elgin's going to do it in November, and that's just something for me that's important to go over. But it's just more a comment.
Yeah, and I'll respond to that one too. Batavia is on a January 1 fiscal year, so that's why they are starting their budget process now. We're having those budget workshops. It's the same thing we do, just in line with our budget cycle. Our budget cycle is May 1, so, you know, there are certain things that come along with that operationally, and it's very difficult to start producing our budget projections and expenditures when we're not even halfway through our fiscal year right now. So that becomes a little difficult to unwind. But in consideration, and I know that you and I have talked about this, well, that's why we tried to kind of capture some of this data in here about here's where our personnel costs are, here's where our contractual services are seeing expected increases over the next year, and that accounts for a pretty high percentage of our budget. So putting that trending of our 5.3% increase in our budget into that, we can expect we're going to be going up 5.3%, and the property tax is really just to kind of keep pace with some of those operational costs. We know we're going up, and we know we've got $450 million worth of projects. This is really just a way to ensure that we have exactly what you said, that diversified revenue source as we look towards these other options for funding those capital projects.
Yeah, I mean, a good example would be the sales tax. We increased it for the roads. And in my understanding, that keeps going up, right, to pay for more and more roads. We were at, I think, 4 miles. Now we're at 12 miles, which is great. It's improving the neighborhoods and everything like that. So those are the type, and that's a huge number that I think it was it 4 million, Bill, somewhere around there?
That's what we added to.
Yeah, 4.4 million, and that's a huge number compared to 250,000, which I understand you're compounding it, and I get the need, but I'm just trying to think outside the box with a little bit different revenue streams where there's a choice that comes along with that.
And I think there's never already one solution to solve all the problems. It's a multi-pronged approach, so we have on the property tax trying to keep pace with those structural operating costs long-term. Some of those ideas you talked about are probably some really great conversations to have discussing all the capital projects that were on that other list. So it's going to be kind of interconnected, but two separate discussions.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Can I just ask one quick clarifying question? This is for the 2025 tax levy, correct?
Yes.
Meaning that this is essentially being applied in arrears to our current budget year. This is not for the 26 budget.
It's for our 26, 27 budget because that's when we receive the funds. They tax it retroactively to the homes. It's considered that, but our receipts are for our next fiscal year and apply to our next budget year.
Okay. It's very confusing to explain that to.
We actually record it as deferred revenue and receivable.
Okay.
That levy, but we haven't collected anything related to it.
Okay. I was just trying to tie that to Alderperson Warball's question regarding the budget and where we look at these numbers and how we're applying that.
Correct.
So, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that is part of the confusing part to all this, because it feels like, and I want to speak for everybody, okay, we're passing this levy, I don't want to say blind, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's passed now, A, B, C, D, E gets done, but these don't, or what gets prioritized. It'd be nice to, kind of Ryan's point, like, what is that magic number that we can sit with and try to figure out from there? I do understand what you were saying too there, Heather, and what's happening, but to come to a number we're all comfortable with, that we can all sit with, I think would be very, very beneficial.
And I think one of the other things I want to point out about this, what our recommendation will be on the 20th, we wanted to certainly take into account all the feedback that we've gotten, have time for council to digest this, give you that 3.99% recommendation. I just want to emphasize that that is based on an additional new EAV of about 1.8%, so that net increase to residents isn't a full 3.99%. So as we talked about last year, we're spreading a little bit more over more property, so the net impact is fewer dollars to the residents. And we will articulate that in a bill so you can see exact examples of that next presentation.
What happens if your EAV drops? So it's going to go up,
Yeah, so essentially.
So hypothetically, there's a bubble burst, something drops, and your EAV slides the other way. So your percentage of your property tax levy is, hey, it's 3.9, but the actual amount of money coming in now shrinks.
So how we actually do our levy is by dollar amount. We work off percentages for ease of everybody up here, but we set a dollar amount. So if it's $12 million, they apply that towards all the EAV once the assessor gets it. So whether the EAV goes up or down, we collect our $12 million. It just affects what that means to each house.
So then why don't we set the dollar amount when we go into this process? Same like.
We do essentially by ordinance, but we talk about percentages so people can see the increase over the last year. But we do include the dollar. So I'll give you an example of the 2009-10, we talked about the decade where it was held at $12 million. It was a really strategic decision because of the crash in the economy, because those property tax values bottomed out. It ensured that we kept our $12 million preserved rather than losing all of those dollars based on our tax rate. But once it started increasing, we did not go up proportionately with that.
Mr. Weber, can I just be heard for a second?
Go ahead, Mayor.
So the only thing that I wanted to add is that in working with Heather and Bill as the mayor, one of the things that we've really tried to focus on is listening to all 10 and to get those comments back and to try to answer those questions that we hear. And so when you look at the slides, in preparation for tonight, Bill and Heather and myself sat and tried to think and hear what each of you had addressed and what each concern was. And then Bill did an excellent job of trying to go through a slide deck and put it together so that it hit upon the different issues that we've heard. So I just want to let you know that the goal for the presentation tonight and the goal that we continue to have is to try to make sure that we're answering the questions that you have. And just as we have continued to do this, they're all ears, we're all ears. We want to get you the information that you want. So if you didn't hear something tonight, or you have more questions or think that there's a better or different way to approach it, please let us know, because you've all thanked Bill, and I'm going to do it publicly as well. But what Bill has done is come to Heather and I and had said, okay, here's the question that I hear being asked. Why can't we have a budget ahead of time? Here's how I'm trying to address that so that you understand that we can't do that. Here's a question that we have about X, Y, or Z. Here's the slide to try to communicate that. So it's just that the focus is on you, and I know that you know that, but if there's something that we're not communicating in the right way, or if there's something that you believe we should communicate differently, or we're just not answering the question, just let us know, because that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I guess to that point, and to Alderperson Warfel's point, Batavia is doing their budget workshop for January. Ours obviously would be in with May, a few months before that.
We start January, February, March.
We start January, February. Is there a way that, I think, and Brian, I don't know, I'm not trying to speak for you, but you're looking at to say, hey, if we could do that meeting then with an idea of what a levy could be, even though we wouldn't be passing it until whenever we're passing it, at least we'd have that idea, right?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's, and I understand the time, right? Because I think in December, everybody has to vote on it, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, the way Batavia does it, I think, is the appropriate way, where you can review a budget, you have your conversation, you can go to your constituents, have the conversation, and then you can convey, hey, these are the reasons why, and we're just happen to be different. We're voting on a property tax levy increase first, and then we're going to talk about the budget. And to me, that's backwards. And I'm not blaming anybody here. That's just the way it was set up. And when I go and talk to my constituents, it's simply not acceptable. And I listen to them, and that's where I'm at with it. So I understand the needs. Yeah. I'm not questioning the money or anything like that. It's about how we get there. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I get it. So I understand. Thank you.
The good thing is that item 8A, we're going to discuss the council initiatives regarding finance and budget, so we can address some of these concerns, so that when we get into this next year, we'll be way ahead of it. So there's no action needed on this. Thank you very much, Bill. Thank you very much, Heather. We are now moving along to item 7A. We have a presentation by Fire Chief Mothy regarding a resolution authorizing the city of St. Charles to accept a donation of an ambulance from Caneville Fire Protection District.
Good evening. Lucky spot on the agenda. I'm here to actually have the fire department have the rare circumstance of trying to save the city some money. So I'm seeking approval to accept the donation of a 2010 International 4000 Series vehicle from the Caneville Fire Protection District. A little bit of quick background on that. They actually received the vehicle from Oswego Fire Protection District. They were looking at using it as a transport vehicle for their district. They had a failed referendum, so after the referendum failed, they knew that they couldn't secure the funding to be able to do that. Put it up for donation again. The vehicles, just to give a little bit of an idea of the cost of an ambulance, they're over $300,000 now and take about 3 years to build. So when it went up for donation, I saw it and figured this thing would be snapped up within a few days. Waited about 2.5, almost 3 full weeks, and no one had any interest in it whatsoever. So had some conversation with the staff within the fire department, and we have a need for it. So we are seeking to utilize it. So the way in which we will do it, it will not be used as an ambulance. So all of our fire engines and fire trucks are licensed as non-transport vehicles, so they respond to be able to provide ALS care, but then the ambulances actually are the ones who do the transport. This vehicle will be used primarily for EMS standby, so football games, the marathon, Kane County Fairgrounds, things of that sort that the firefighters are there just as a standby for, and then if there needs to be a transport, if ambulances come. Additionally, we're looking at utilizing it for fire department operations, so a rehabilitation unit at a fire where it could bring resources, liquids, things of that sort to be able to go to the firefighter. So it would be a bit of a specialized unit to be able to utilize. We had the due diligence done by the fleet mechanic. Our emergency vehicle technician took a look at it. Being a 2010 and with a large number of miles on it, we had figured there would be some mechanical issues. He actually said it's a very solid vehicle. So we're looking to move forward to be able to utilize that as presented.
Any questions? Go ahead, David.
So, Chief, I'm understanding to a point, if you can clarify something for me, sorry. I sound like a broken record. So it's not an ambulance, it's not going to be used in an ambulance, but it's being used as standby. So
Yes.
as an ambulance as standby?
So Illinois Department of Public Health specifies what transport vehicle versus non-transport vehicle would be. And we had told them we need to know what the criteria is for a non-transport vehicle. So for instance, we have to remove any markings that say ambulance, the stars of life, things of that sort, so that when the vehicle is just seen, it's not recognized as an ambulance. So we have to pull those things off, which is a very simple thing to do. And then we do license it through the Illinois Department of Public Health as a non-transport, similar, like I said, to the fire engines and fire trucks. So it will not be an ambulance.
Okay. So the reason I asked, and I was not concerned, but just thought about it a little bit more, was obviously being a board member of TCA. I know I think just authorized the purchase, and I get it. So thanks for finding this.
Yeah, we're
doing this.
definitely making that distinction for you.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that there's that sort of fine line between PSI has to operate the ambulances and things like that. So that line will not be crossed.
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ron.
Thank you. Okay, I guess I've got a couple questions here. One of them is, who's going to staff this?
So we currently already do EMS standbys, and we utilize firefighters. It's an extra duty that they do. We bill, so for instance, the school district, if the school district says, hey, we've got X number of football games, we want a standby unit, we do that currently. We just do it with a brush truck or a Polaris unit. So part of the problem that we've encountered is, if we get someone injured, we can't lay them inside of a brush truck to assess them, to be able to do things of that sort. This unit being, a retrofitted, what it was an ambulance, you're able to take them inside, do a full assessment, and be able to do that without having, a crowd staring around you.
So it'll be firefighters doing this?
Yes.
Not paramedics from?
All of our firefighters, except for two, are all paramedics.
They're all paramedics?
Yep.
We're not going to be using the ones we contract with, right?
Correct.
Thank you. That was one question. So has it passed the safety inspection yet or not?
It has not, because we're looking at making sure that we can accept a donation.
So are we going to, let's say it fails the safety inspection, are we going to then not accept the ambulance?
So having our emergency vehicle technician take a look at it, that was part of what we wanted to make sure that we didn't get this thing and then it turns out to be a lemon and we've got a invested number. Yeah. So he did a very thorough once over, and he's the one who works on our fire trucks. So he's got the AFE certification plus the EVT certification, very reputable. And we said, this is what we're looking at getting. Can you let us know, if we have to invest any kind of funding in it? And he said, surprisingly to him, given its age and mileage, that it's a very good vehicle. Doesn't see any kind of mechanical issues with it.
So are we going to do the safety inspection after we accept the donation?
Once it's accepted, then yes.
Afterwards.
And I'd have to check with Caneville or Oswego Fire Protection District, because I would assume that they had done their annual safety inspection the last time that they had it.
Okay, so is this going to be refurbished as an ambulance, but not an ambulance?
No ambulance. It'll be essentially a special response unit or special services unit. It's going to be a bit of a hybrid unit to be able to utilize, like I said, for fire department operations, as well as EMS standby. But it is very specifically licensed through IDPH as a non-transport vehicle, because as Alderman Trilla had said, we're not looking at blurring the lines with TCA and PSI.
Okay, because I remember I've seen them at football games before too, ambulances all the time. I mean, ambulances, I've seen them there at the games.
Yes, historically, the reserve medic unit for St. Charles, or just like Geneva and Batavia, was utilized. That was stopped a few years ago. So now we utilize a brush truck or a Polaris unit for the last few years.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, Brian.
What's the long-term goal? How many miles are on this thing?
Over 150,000. I think closer to 200,000.
So what's the long-term goal when it breaks down? Is it to get, you go back to the brush truck, or what?
I think at this point, for us to utilize it and see how well it's used, right now, we don't, when we bill, we principally bill for just the cost of the two individuals at their overtime rate, so we aren't making any additional money on top of that. So right now, it's just to be able to have a vehicle that we can utilize better for the services that we provide. I haven't decided at this point, you know, if 5 years from now works outstanding. You know, there's a lot of times where TCA or PSI will, as they get a new ambulance in, they'll offload one of their old ones, and they usually get minimal money for it. If that's something that we say, hey, we want to repurpose one of these as a similar vehicle, we can see to do that, but don't really have a goal at this point of doing that.
I mean, thank you for clarifying, because it makes sense that, you know, if you're at a football game, you'd rather have somebody inside than laying, you know, I get that. So I'm fine with what you want to do there, so.
Motion to approve?
A second. I got a motion by Bongard, seconded by Munn. Roll call, please.
Gem,
Yes.
Spellman.
Yes.
Petrilla.
Yes.
Wireball.
Yes.
Festner.
Yes.
Tokayev.
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
Bungard.
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief
Thank you,
Mossy.
Chief.
All righty. Next up, we have item 8A. It's a discussion regarding council initiatives as it relates to finance and budgeting. So I think we already know some of the questions, right?
I do.
Budget workshop.
So in reviewing some of the items that I got from council in terms of requests for a budget, I think one of the things that I just wanted to clarify, and not to put anybody on the spot on this one, but everybody is aware that we submit a monthly treasurer's report in the packet. And in that treasurer's report, over the last couple of years, we've modified the information that has been contained therein to try to reflect what council has asked for in terms of dashboards, metrics, where we're at in terms of our budget, running on our trends month over month in terms of the year progress. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that, because there were some questions and recommendations within some of those items that seemed to duplicate things that we were already doing. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of where to find that is submitted. Usually the second council meeting every month that is on the omnibus agenda from City Council, and that is contained in the packet.
Is there a chance, maybe, just from a presentation perspective, that maybe in one of the government ops meetings for the month, we can...
Review it?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that'd be very beneficial. Thank you.
And from my perspective, too, looking at that as our base point, and if there's ways that we can tweak that report to make sure that each month council is getting the information that they need or in a way that they want to receive, I think would be helpful. So I think that's a really good way that we can at least start with some of those particular items.
Agreed. Thank you.
But Heather, that's not a dashboard document, that's a long spreadsheet, right?
No, there are metrics in there. There's graphs that talk about where we're at on trend. So if you look at it's usually the second meeting of the month, it's the treasurer's report, and it's not just the line item spreadsheet.
Thank you.
Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, are they not in the finance section of our website where we look at our documentation?
I looked today, I didn't see the monthly reports in there, the yearly is.
Sorry, Alderman Frisingen. They're in the packets, but I don't believe we list them separately on our website.
Okay, because I think of the treasurer's report that you guys put together when it comes out, is it on where we have the other financial?
There's an annual treasurer's report that we do.
There's the annual one.
annual treasurer's reports are listed on the website, but not the monthly.
Yeah, I look at the monthly ones that comes out with. Okay.
Correct, yeah.
And that packet is available to the general public as well with those monthly reports. So they're not listed specifically in the budget documents. We can talk about maybe adding those to that, but they are available to the public as well.
Because they are very helpful, so that's what I used to create, so that's why I'm always looking at it, so.
We have a great treasurer that does a great job putting this sheet together.
Yes.
Thank you.
Could I, so I like your idea. Would that be then, or you're envisioning that if we go over it, that could be almost like a visual or audible dashboard almost?
Yeah, so I think anything that's related to just the reporting, and I want to make sure to emphasize too that I don't want council to get stuck too far in day-to-day operational items, looking at more of that vision of where are we at in terms of trends on our budget for the year specifically. But that's one piece of that. I know there were some other items as well on that list that I had.
So one of the things we tried to do with the last quarterly finance update that we were having is I included some of those charts from that monthly report in the discussion. So part of the goal with those quarterly meetings was to include some of the information at that time for discussion, but we can certainly look at other formats as well.
Go ahead, Brian.
So my question is, I like the quarterly update, but can it be broken down by department? Because when we look at something on the memo, we say, hey, we're under budget by 100,000, or we're over budget by, that's what interests me for, let's say, IS department or Public Works. And I know you have to take into consideration we're not at the end of the year, so not a lot of projects are not done, but I'd like to see it broken down by each department to see where we're at. Are they up, over, on, that's just for me. I don't know where everybody else is. I think it would be easier than looking at the overall, because I kind of want to see where everybody is individually, department-wise. And I know Public Works is one of our biggest expenses, but that's just for me.
So the question I would ask is, from a goal perspective, what you're looking to get out of that, only because exactly as you pointed out, there are a lot of our expenditures that are back-end year expenditures. So if we're taking a snapshot at a department budget on any given month, and I know I've had this conversation with several council members, it can be extremely skewed to look much different than it actually is, because a number of our things might not happen until the end of the fiscal year, or revenue income streams might not come until the end of the fiscal year. So that's why I'm trying to assess what you're looking for.
So what you have now, I just want to see it broken down by department. So when I go on or look, it's holistic, right? I think it's holistically, right? I mean, I can look.
It's general fund, electric fund. It's not fire.
Yeah, just for me, I would like to see it, because it's very time consuming to sit, well, wait a minute, that goes there. That's a high level. I know that you have things that you haven't completed, but as we get closer to the end of the budget year, it's going to be more and more accurate, right? So that's what I'm looking for.
It will be, and I guess I'll just go back to the reason you're looking for that information, so we can make sure that we're providing it in a context that is getting to what you're looking for. And if it's just purely for the objective, I'm looking at the numbers to see where the trends are, then that's, one answer.
For example, let's say we have a project, I think Public Works did a project, they were substantially under budget. So that's huge. It's like, I don't know what the number was, like $700,000 or something. So that's a huge number, and I'm going to watch as we go along and see just for me, my own knowledge to understand that. And if I have questions, I can always reach out to Bill or Peter to see where we're at. But that's just for me.
So maybe when we review that dashboard, we can tweak that and add those breakdowns in there to see if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, be great. Thank you.
Jamie, go ahead.
I'm just curious about Alderman Warball's question, because that to me sounds very operational, to be digging into each department's expenses and how they're managing their budget on a day-to-day basis. And I'm not certain that that's really what our role is necessarily.
It's not what our role is. It's already there. It's them trying to put it in a category. It's already there. So it's categorizing it so it's easier to read. That's all it is.
And Bill, the feasibility of doing that, is that anything crazy what he's requesting?
So let us take a look at that, and when we bring back the report, we can kind of maybe have some of those answers, because I do, appreciate Alderman Munz's point that I want to make sure we're not feeding too much information to get council focused on the minutia of the day-to-day operations versus that higher level, but let us look and see what we can do with that and what might make sense to provide.
That's fair. Go ahead, Ryan.
But isn't this at the core of the issue we've been facing the last 4 years? I mean, so you've got council members who would like to see that information provided, and when the property tax levy comes up every year, you've got 6 people that say yes and 3 people that say no, that you wasn't here. So I agree. I think the answer probably lies somewhere in the middle a little bit of I'm not in favor of council members managing departments, on a weekly basis of, hey, you're under budget by $400,000, keep up the good work. I don't want to do that. At the same time, I think we have to be aware of where this group is at and what it takes to being able to manage this thing for the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years. And if that's what people are asking for because they want to see, I think we have to find a way to be able to do that.
As I said, let us take a look at it and figure out what might make sense. And that's why I asked the question of what the goal was of that, so I can figure out a way how to provide the information in that way that kind of meets all of that.
Go ahead, David.
Kind of a dovetail to what Brian's mentioning. I'm not, I subscribe to the same belief as well. I don't want to get into the weeds, though, in terms of, like, what Jamie's mentioning. Like, I'm not, you run the operation of the city, I get it. I'm thinking maybe like a trigger, perhaps. again, that example, and I have no problem giving $200,000, chief, to the firehouse for new cabinets, but that was like, to me as a policymaker and with this government, like a $200,000 savings occurred and a decision for spending was made without consultation. I think that's kind of what we're talking about. So I don't know if there's like because right now we don't approve anything that's below 25,000, right?
That's what I was saying. I think 25,000 and up goes to city council.
Right. So I mean, I don't need to. If it's a $5,000 savings, I'd have fun reallocating that. I'm talking like, should we do whatever? I don't know. Maybe get a recommendation is if there's a $50,000 spread that the council should just be told. I don't know, an asterisk or something, or on the
Let me
memo.
think on that one only because anything that is coming before city council
Is
over
already
that 25,000
over.
would be bid out, would have delineated,
Right.
this is under budget, so that information is delivered at the time the approval is made.
It does say that in the memo. It'll say like, oh, budgeted. And then, if we're reading the memos up there, we'll see the
That's where I'm at is with, when you come in, you say you're under budget, over I'm not interested in getting in the weeds. I just want to see where we're trending. We have those massive numbers where we're up or down or right on. That's what interests me, because then we end up with a surplus or whatever. That's all I'm interested in. I'm not interested in managing day-to-day operations.
Trends.
Yeah, trends is what I'm looking for.
Go ahead. And I'm not sure I'm repeating that, but if you do have a $500,000 or $700,000 win, that might be the opportunity where we just let everybody know, not so much to tell us exactly where that money's going to go, but we'll all have our arms around where maybe we can suggest where it might go.
And as a staff, we manage that as well. I know we talked about budget this year. We talked about some of the bids that we expected may come in a little bit lower, and if we had certain cost savings where we would bring those projects back, and some of those things are in the works right now for bringing those back, like the parking deck counters.
Okay.
Any more questions or comments regarding this? We feel like we got can we get some more information?
It sounds like maybe it's focused on the dashboard itself, which, maybe reviewing that and tweaking that information may be a big part of it. I know that we've started to implement some of the quarterly and probably more frequent finance updates at this point. I think Bill's probably done presentations every single month since July. So, tweaking that as well.
I think, sometimes it's just the makeup of the council and then our constituents. I think a lot of us in our personal, professional career are very budget oriented and deal with a lot of numbers. And I also think that a lot of us have very inquisitive residents that ask a lot of questions, and we like to have answers for them. So I don't think anyone's picking on anybody. It's just, these are things that are coming at us that we deal with professionally, and then on the city side as well, so.
And I do appreciate these conversations only because we as a staff are adjusting to new expectations from new council members as well, and there is a very finance-driven mindset from city council right now, so I certainly understand that, in ways that we've operated in our careers in the past maybe aren't the expectations now, so I think these dialogues are good to help us adjust to that.
One other question. So the format of this is not exactly what I had anticipated that we would be doing. This is not exactly an interactive conversation between us as council members. It's more of a question and answer to staff. And I'm just trying to understand how it is that we are going to be digging into the things that we had sent in to discuss what our priorities are to try and establish those for staff from council.
Well,
so how is that actually
happening?
happening?
It's budget and finance, so then you can ask whatever you want, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, well, I mean,
dialogue.
well, but that's the thing, is that's what we did here, is we put forth what our ideas and our questions were, and we are simply getting a back and forth between staff and council as opposed to talking to each other about what things we would like to see established, and this is just one of the different buckets that we kind of
Well, I mean, one of the things
talked
that
about
initiative could be to have, this could be something that we have a special meeting about if you want.
Yeah, so like for one of my examples that I had, I was curious about understanding if we do have, and I wasn't able to locate one, a reserve policy. Do we have a reserve policy? And if we don't, can we establish a floor and ceiling to that reserve policy so that we are no longer constantly debating what to do with our reserves?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something we've started to take a look at over the last couple of years. What should our reserve policies be, not just for the general fund, but our utility funds as well? And coming up with some policies that take into account the entire organization both operating and capital needs as well as utilities, and kind of taking that holistic approach of analyzing those things. So that is an initiative that we have to take a look at those reserve policies.
So Mark just whispered it, Jamie said it, I think where Brian's at. It's 9:15 on government operations. Here's my initiative. I would like us to be more comfortable with when it comes to talking about, the fiscal position and our priorities, because it always seems like this is left to the end. It's the elephant in the corner of the room of like, well, don't worry, we're going to get there. I don't think anybody here wants to get in the weeds managing day to day, but I'd like us to be more, at least this group, to feel like it's more collaborative, it's more proactive, it's more of a ongoing conversation, because do not kid yourself, your single biggest risk to the city is its fiscal position. Period. It should be at the top. It should start every conversation. It should end every conversation. And it just feels like at times like okay, we got there, item 8A, let's talk about what your initiatives are financially. It's like, this is not, there's got to be a better way to do it. And whether it is looking at budget stuff or talking about priorities or just hearing, I think Steve just put it really well. It's a different council, a different way of how we approach and how we tackle this.
And I think productively, having one topic that is then turned over to council to debate, and certainly having the format of a staff member standing up here and listening to anything changes the nature of the dialogue between the council members. So I think maybe having one topic with some background information in there that's set for council to have the open discussion on without staff being involved in it and just obviously available for questions is probably the more effective way to tackle that.
I mean, I think when we have our workshops that we have, like our, two workshops throughout the year, I think we should have one or two more that's just totally based on budgetary stuff.
And I think as we talk about shifting to committee of the whole, as we bring that back forward, that opens up those opportunities for those Monday nights to be solely focused on some of those items in that workshop type format too.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jamie.
And I just wanted to finish what I was trying to bring up here is that, I appreciate what you're saying, and we are focusing on one of the topics on here, but just in what I've laid out here, there's 5 or 6 or 7 different concepts financially that I wanted to touch on, and that's not conducive for 9:15 at night necessarily, or for this particular conversation. But I do think that they're really important to establish agreement, or at least just an understanding of what everybody believes we should be doing in these topics in order to move forward on all the rest of the things that we do in the business of the city. And I'm not really sure how to get to those things if we're never really getting the opportunity to have those conversations as council. So that's really just a question. When are we having those conversations?
Could we have like a quarterly offsite with a standing agenda where we go through some conversation as a council together with staff, where one of the standing items is budget, and dig in a little bit and get to talk to each other? I think that's all we're saying. It'd be great to be able to.
So that was sort of the driver behind at least my recommendation on committee of the whole, is because it's difficult to find a Saturday that's an off Monday when we've got all of these meetings and actual business to conduct, to get council in a room with everybody's schedule. So that was a lot of the push behind the committee of the whole, is opening up those Mondays, that on those off Mondays where we don't have city council, it is that workshop format. It is that dialogue, discussion, debate of where do we go next. And then the business is the first and third.
And is that for next year, or when are we going to talk about
Yeah, so I will be bringing that back in the next month, so that it's implemented for January 1st if council wants to approve it.
Sounds good.
We good for this moment? Heather, do you need anything else from us right now?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have public comment. Talk fast, Steve.
I'm going to try. All right. Want to bring everybody.
Name, please. State your name.
Steve Leffler. Want to bring everybody's attention back to the electric fund. Our operating revenues, $66 million. Operating expense, $57 million. But $4 million of that, $5 million of that was depreciation. So we really, cash out was $52 million. So you got about $14 million worth of profit in the electric fund. And that's been continuing year after year. And if you're wondering how to pay for, some electric or some lead lines, or you want to say to your people, hey, we got to raise the levy, this might be an opportunity there. You've got $59 million in unrestricted net profit, as Bill referred to them as cash reserves. And, you spent $57 million last year, so you got a full year worth of reserves sitting out there. There's a little bit of money here that you can play with. And I think if you went to to your constituents and said, hey, we're going to lower your electric bill, but we're going to raise your water bill to pay for the lead lines, and the check that you write at the end of each month and send into the city to pay your utilities is going to be about the same, they might understand that. And it might help you guys get a little bit better handle on the problem that you have with the lead lines, or maybe with the levy. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Anyone else for public comment? I do not see any additional items from mayor, council, or staff.
A quick question.
Go ahead, Vicki.
Thank you. Question for Chief Mouthy, I believe. I'm just curious if you don't mind. Would you be able to speak to the gas leak that was off of Route 31 last week that closed 31 for a little while, or anybody on staff? Do we know how that happened and if that's something that we should think about how to prevent in the future?
I could give you additional information on it afterwards, but my understanding of it, it was workers that were digging and ended up hitting a gas line.
Workers for our workers?
No, I think they're contractors.
Like a private resident?
I could look up the narrative and then give you the information on that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anything else? No? Okay. There's no need for an executive session tonight. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I got a motion by Gem, I got a second by Wirball. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned.